Hello everyone, welcome back. Figma recently released some new features for Figma variables. In today's video, we will focus only for the new features that created for the developers. They can access these features in dev mode. Okay. Before I show you these features, please subscribe to the channel and hit the like button to support me. Okay. Good. So the first feature is suggested variables. So what does this mean? This means if you have some variables, but these variables actually it's not applied or assigned to your design elements, so Figma automatically can match the values with the variables and suggest for the developers actually the variables so they can copy it or they can use it. Let me show you actually how this works. In this design, I don't have any variables yet. Okay, so if the developer go to dev mode and for example go to this background button, he can see the value here. Okay, so if this value actually a part of your variables, so Figma here suggests for the developer the variable name. And here actually let me show you some tips and tricks. Okay, so if I back to design mode, I go to the variables. So for example, let's have more than one collection. So for example, let's say this one option tokens or primitives. Okay, and here I will have the first color variable. I will call it for example colors blue 500. Okay, and here let's add our value. So if the developer go to dev mode and he selected this button, so you can see here actually the value has an underline and the user can interact with it. And if you hover, you can see one suggested variable. So once you click here, you can see the variable name colors blue 500 and also the collection name. Okay, so what if I have this value in more than one collection? So for example here, let's try to create a new collection. For example, let's call this one tokens. Okay, and here let's start to create a variable called for example button primary. Okay, background color. Okay, and here actually let's add the value here to be from the primitives colors blue 500. Okay, so this means if the developer go to dev mode and try to inspect the button, he can hover here and can see two suggested variables. Here, for example, the first one, button primary background color, and this coming from the tokens collection, and the second one actually colors blue 500 coming from primitives. But as you know, we supposed to hand off the component specific tokens to the developers, not the semantic or alias tokens, and also not the option or reference tokens. So how can I hide this from here? So to hide this actually you have to back again to your variables. So for example, let's go to primitives and here we have to set the scope to none. So in this case, if the developer trying to inspect the button, the developer can come here and he can see only one suggested variables and you can see the primitives or the option tokens, it's not showing here and this is good. But what if the value is repeated? So what did this mean? Let me show you one complicated example. So here for the input field, I have the font size is 14 and also I have 14 pixels as a padding X and padding Y. So how can Figma actually understand this token for font size and another token for the padding? So if we open our variable panel and under primitives, let's add two number variables. The first one, for example, I will call it font size 14. Okay, and I will get a value here 14. And the second one actually for the spacing, so I will go here and create a new one. I will say spacing 14 and I will add the value here 14. Okay, good. And if I want to use these tokens actually to be a reference for my component specific tokens, so let's go here, all variables. Let's call it for example input field. Okay, slash font slash size. Okay, and input field font size, I will give it a value, for example, font size 14. And under input field, I will also add input field padding. Okay, and here I will give it a value, for example, spacing 14. Okay, so if the developer come to dev mode and he try to inspect the font size here, he can see the font size actually have 4 suggested variables and you can see 2 variables coming from the tokens level and another 2 coming from the primitives. But the issue here is I can hide the primitives one, but why I can see the tokens related to the padding. So we can fix this issue by setting the scope for this one and for this one. Same example here. If you select the input field, you can see the padding. Okay, so the padding here suggesting for you also some tokens for font size, and doesn't make sense. So to fix this one also, you will go here. So I will start with primitives. So for primitives, I will set the scope here actually to none, because I don't need to see it in all cases. Same also for this one. Okay, but for the component specific tokens, for the padding, I will set the scope to the gap. Okay, and for font size, I will set the scope to be font size. So in this case, once the developer go here and try to select, for example, the font size, he can see only one suggested variables, the font size. And if the developer select the input field for the padding, actually he can see one suggested variable for the padding. Okay, good. I want to show you also one more example. Okay, let's say, for example, this button is disabled and I will give it opacity 50%. In this case, if I create some variables related to the opacity, so I go here, for example, let's go to primitives and let's start to create a number variable called, for example, opacity. Okay, 50%, and let's give it a value 50. Okay, and here I will set the scope to none. And under component specific tokens, I will create another one. I will call it, for example, button disabled. Okay, and here I will assign this one to the opacity, and I will set the scope to be layer opacity. Okay, and once the developer go to dev mode and he try to select this button, you will not see here any suggested variables. Why? Because the value that Figma generated, it's not the same that our value. This one is 0.5, but our value is 50. And if you go here, you open your variables, you go to primitives, and you try to change this value to be 0.5. Okay, so if you back again to dev mode and you go here, you can see we have one suggested variable. Okay, button disabled. But the problem here is 0.5, it's not 50%. So for example, if you want to assign this variable to our button here, you can see it's have 0.5%, not 50. Okay, so this is a small issue. I hope Figma can fix it in the future. Okay, good. So this is the first feature. What is the second feature? The second new feature that released from Figma recently is variable details. I will show you this. So let's select this button. And here, for example, we will assign the token for button primary background color. Maybe also for this text, I will select both and I will go to font size and let's say input field font size. And maybe also we can select this input field, and for the padding here, I will assign the variable input field padding. Okay. And now if the developer go to dev mode and try to select any element with a variable assigned to it, and see here actually the variable name, if you click on it, you will find all details. So the variable name, button primary background color, and if you click here, you will go to the original design system file or original component, and here you can see the collection name, and actually this variable button primary background color that has a value. This value actually is colors blue 500, and this colors blue 500 has a value, this hexacode. Same also, if you select the input field, you can see the variable here. Once you click, you can find all the variable details, the collection, the value, and also the last value or the row value. And also here you can see the scope of this variable. Same also for font size. You will find here font size have the variable input field font size. Once you click, you can see all the details, and the scope also has been defined. This is a good one. The last feature that Figma has been released recently related to Figma variables and also dev mode is the developer on dev mode, he will have an access to can see all these collections. How this happen? So the developer go to dev mode without selecting anything. He can see here variables. Once you click on this expand, you can see open variables. You will find all the variables, all the collections. This is a place for the collections, and once you select the collection, you can see all the variables under this collection. You cannot collapse each one here, but you can see the whole hierarchy. And for example, under button, I can see all the variables related to the button. Input field also same, and also I have an option to select all the variables here for this one. Okay, good. The second thing here, if you select any variable, you can see all the details here. So now I am under tokens level. I'm selecting the variable for button primary background color. So I can see here the variable name, the collection name, the value for this variable, and also the variable for this variable. Same for everything. Here, for example, font size, you can see it here. So This is the all 3 new features related to Figma variables and Dev Mode. I can see it's good, helping the developers more than the designers, and this is not bad, filling the gap between developers and designers. Okay, if you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. I will also leave you in the comments my Telegram community channel. In this Telegram community, we usually do live sessions. We discuss a lot of things. I reply to you directly if you have any questions. We discuss a lot of things related to UI and UX and more specific for design tokens and Figma variables. That's it for today. See you again. Bye.